In this project, I would like to focus on my hometown Nanjing. Nanjing is in China. It is the capital city of Jiangsu province. It is roughly about 1.5 hours away from Shanghai by train. Nanjing is a very old city. It used to be the capital for 6th dynasty in China, and the formation of the city is highly influenced by the water flow and also its geometry. As you can see in the map, the old city of Nanjing was bound by its city wall and city moat. The highest point of the city is on the peak of Purple Mountain, which is about 448 meters. The famous Yangtze River runs through the city from south to north. The surface of the water is super wide because it's on the downstream of Yangtze River. Here's a close-up look to the city wall and moat. In the map, this is where the local city moat Qinghai River affluxes into the Yangtze River. The area between the old city and the Yangtze River is considered as the newer part of the city. Back in the days, there were barely any people living on this part of the land because it gets flooded seasonally. Here's a map from 100 years ago showing the area outside the city wall are very abandoned and full of water ponds and puddles. If we trace back a little bit more, we can see that the river even have a wider riparian zone and meander paths. This is an illustration I did to show how the city expanded over the past 100 years. It started strictly within the city wall, and then later some people settled down outside the city in the highland. Only during recent decades people started to move into the once abandoned lowland because of the construction of the levees. Here is a footage showing the expansion of the city in the past 35 years. For local scale, I want to focus on the northwest of the city wall and the confluence of Qinghai River and Yangtze River. Back in the days, people took advantage of the natural landform and built this part of the city wall on this little mount. This is where the highest point in the city that closest to the Yangtze River. The wall defines the edge of the city. Back in the days, the city wall was never a place for normal people's stay or recreation. It is a statement of territory and mainly used for military purpose. It has become a recreational spot for both locals and tourists. This is a video taken by my mother over the weekend outside the city wall. You can see the wall and moat at the same time. Just about 1 kilometer away is the new edge of the city. This is also where the city moat Qinghai River merges into the Yangtze River. The water level of Yangtze River changes throughout the year. In order to keep city moat's water level stable during dry season, a stream gauge was built at the very end of the Qinghai River. During flood season, the water from Yangtze River will submerge the gauge and overflow into Qinghai River. When river overflows, levees on both sides of the Yangtze River and Qinghai River will prevent the water from flowing into the city. This year's flood is particularly bad. The water submerged the entire riverfront trails. Luckily, the civil engineers built the levee high enough that the water have never overflowed into the city. However, we don't know how worse it will get in the future. I asked my mother to visit the waterfront over the weekend. The water level went down a lot since July. However, you can still see parts of the waterfront trail are still under the water. As you keep walking, you will find yourself standing on the levee. On one side is the riparian zone, and on the other side is the busy street, which is lower than the water level during flood season. As someone born and raised in Nanjing, water is always a part of my life, no matter it's Qinghua River or Yangtze River. They are all part of the river Armature. They remarkably influenced the formation of the city, and are still shaping how the city develops. However, the same river, same city wall have completely different roles in human social life from then to now.